My name is Jung Won Jung, and I was born in Seoul, Korea, early 1960s. I have a very good childhood memory in Korea. I think my parents, or my father especially, was a bit different than the average Korean father. My dad would take me to a countryside. We will catch fish and some kind of things in the river. We'll bring it home, and we will have it in the fish tank for a while, and we'll bring it back, and we'll catch other new ones, and then grow some, and it will pour back. We also did a lot of hikings every weekend, and my dad would make us pack our own stuff. So make sure we packed our little snacks and apples or sandwiches or kimbap, whatever. And so we will do a hiking, and I was afraid of a lot of things, jumping rocks to rocks, but my dad taught me how to be brave. And that had built me to kind of be a little more challenging in my life later on. I remember once I was trying to learn how to ride a bike, and I was really awful about it, and I couldn't. All my siblings learned in maybe in a couple of hours, and I was struggling for days. And I said, Dad, I don't think I could do this. I'm afraid to fall and get hurt. I said, I'm a girl, so I don't have to ride a bike. And my dad told me, look, you're a girl, but you can ride better than a boy. So it doesn't matter. You could still ride it. You could ride much better than a boy. So let's try this. And he wouldn't give up. And I was so afraid. I said, Dad, I don't want to try it. I'm just going to fall. And he said, no, you're going to do well. You're going to do fine. And you're going to be riding and faster than a boy. Believe me. So it took me, I don't know, maybe weeks and months until I got to learn bike. And then I said, Dad, I was calling. And then I don't hear his answer. I'm like, where is he? I'm turning around. He's over there, all the way back. And I was riding all along. So he taught me that I don't have to limit myself as a girl. And that's the idea he gave me when I was young. And then I immigrated to Argentina in the early 1970s, which is, I think is 1973, when I was 11 years old. That was quite a different life, immigrating to Argentina. But still yet, I have a very good memory. And living in Argentina, it was different. And of course, I was always the foreigner living there. So in a way, living outside of Korea as a diaspora was not a strange thing anymore. When I came to US, my parents were still living in Argentina. They just put me into school. Maybe you could study a little bit and see what you want to do, and they left. So it was very difficult being separated from my family and not having that support that I had. But I still felt like, I can do this. It was very difficult learning English. I didn't have any basis. But I always had a courage of saying, I can do this. I could try it. I could always do the new thing. And I always thought about those times when I did the impossible to become possible, such as riding bicycle. It did impact my life in many ways. In America, the life was more tight. And I also had to live in budget, obviously, because my family weren't here. And that's, I think, when I got more mature. It was difficult as it was, moving to America or to United States, but it prepared me to a better independent person. As soon as I graduated, as my parents wishes, I got married. And I had a child. So I ended up not having an opportunity to go to a job career. Raising child and becoming kind of housewife made me just stay home most of the time. But at the same time, I reward raising a wonderful child, my son. And I learned to open a business. Like, my parents were always in the business. So while I was doing the business, I went to one of the post office and I picked up one of the brochure of the Korean American Family Service Center recruiting volunteers. So it was really interesting, and I was sort of looking to do something like that. So I made a call, and a few days later, I was interviewed. The girl, the staff to interview, she wasn't quite sure why I just called and wanted to volunteer. And she asked me a lot of questions. Why do you want to volunteer? And I said, simply, I want to do something worth for the society. So I started volunteering from then. And I really didn't know I could be volunteering 20 years later still now. And it gave me a lot of rewards. I learned a lot. It impacted my life in many ways. Volunteering for Korean American Family Service Center, they assigned me to become a little advocate for the client, for the victim of domestic violence. So I will accompany them to the court, such as a family court, a criminal court, or to file order protection to the precinct, meeting these women or people and their children. They were victims of domestic violence. At the same time, they had a strong will to do the right thing for their children or for their child. It meant a lot for me to be with them and able to talk, because often in order to file an order protection, I have to question the client. So I get to learn a little more in depth what's going on in daily life, what kind of threats or and danger they're put into, or along with their children. It's really sad, but at the same time, and knowing that they one day become independent and they're protected, and they're no longer with that person who is endangering the well-being of the child or the woman. It's rewarding. I couldn't stop. Every moment that I think of that I volunteer for this organization, it was more reward than my dedication or hours. So 20 years went by really fast. Of course, it's challenging when you hear this difficulty. Other women, just like me, they're going through such difficulty, but their endurance, and it's just hearing them, the heart aching. Sometimes it was unbearable, but at the same time, the fact that I could be with them and hold their hand and say, look, we'll overcome this, that gave me joy and reward. Also, at some point, I used to teach computer classes. Back then, not many women knew how to maneuver or manage or handle computer. They learned how to email or search on internet, just learning the basic of how to handle a computer, or how to manage computer. It gave them different world, different life for them. And I remember one of the students, this was at the time where there was a war going on with Iraq. And this woman had her son going to one of those very dangerous zone of country as a soldier. And she was always waiting for a physical letter from her son. And she was always nervous what's going on. Until one day, she learned how to email. So when she emailed her son, and then she received the email from her son from this war zone, she said she hugged her computer and cried. That was a rewarding moment for me. Nowadays, I do a lot of outreach, a lot with the local politicians and community work with new administration, new policy. I think the organization is in danger in a way. We may not get as much support as we needed and able to help the community. I've seen many women getting jobs because of the self-sufficiency programs, such as computer classes, English classes, or some sort of either sewing classes. That helps the community. If a mother can be independent, financially independent, I know they can be independent. They can get out of that hazardous environment from those people who are assaulting or violent to their children. So I think it's very important that we know that the woman needs to become powerful or to have the financial power in order to become independent. My name is Jung Won Jung. This is my Korean American story.